Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you're gearing up for a trip to Israel, you're absolutely going to encounter this incredible, rich tapestry of cultures. And today, we're going to equip you with the deep historical context you need to truly understand the vibrant, ultra-Orthodox or Haredi communities that you'll see walking the streets of places like Jerusalem and Bnei Brak.
Now, you might look at the traditional black and white clothing and naturally just assume, okay, this is one massive, monolithic culture, right? But actually, beneath the surface, there's this fascinating, centuries-old ideological split hiding right in plain sight.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll be looking at these two distinct worlds, the roots of their conflict, the Vilna Gaon's legacy, finding historical unity, and finally, the Musar movement. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Two distinct worlds, Hasidim versus Litaim.
The absolute core dichotomy here really comes down to the heart versus the mind. The Hasidim center their entire world around what's called Avodat Halev, the spiritual work of the heart. So in their daily rituals, you're going to see ecstatic joy, super enthusiastic prayer, and singing. It's incredibly vibrant. But on the flip side, the Litaim prioritize the mind. Their everyday life is laser-focused on intellectual rigor, deep, rational, Talmudic logic, and strict, quiet discipline. Totally different vibes.
And as you observe these communities, you'll quickly notice their leadership models are completely different too. Hasidim cluster around the Edmor. This is a highly charismatic spiritual rebbe who acts as the central figure of their community court. The Litaim, however, they revere the Rosh Yeshiva. This is the dean of a Talmudic academy, and his authority doesn't come from mysticism or charm. No, it comes from his unmatched academic brilliance and absolute mastery of the texts.
Section 2. Roots of the conflict.
So where did this all start? Well, this conflict was born way back in 18th century Eastern Europe. Hasidism emerged as this profound religious innovation focused heavily on joy. But it spread like wildfire, and that triggered an intense, massive backlash from the traditional establishment. We are talking about actual excommunications here, primarily led by the Vilna Gaon in 1772 and then again in 1781.
The Litaim actually earned the name Mitnagdim, which literally means opponents, because, well, that's exactly what they were. They fiercely feared this intense new emphasis on emotion was going to weaken strict Torah study. Plus, they were really worried it would give a dangerous amount of power to single charismatic individuals. The Hasidim, on the other hand, looked at the Mitnagdim's approach and basically thought it was way too cold. You know, all text, zero soul.
Section 3. The Vilna Gaon's legacy. Now, the Vilna Gaon, also known as the Gra, he wasn't just some fighter leading an opposition. He essentially provided the deep intellectual legitimacy for the entire Litai worldview. He firmly believed that religious truth is measured by meticulous, rigorous study and total intellectual independence, not by passionate enthusiasm. In fact, he was deeply suspicious of anything that even looked like an emotional shortcut to spiritual truth.
What's fascinating is that the Gaon's personal traits, his incredible discipline, his restraint, his elite focus on the text, that became the literal blueprint for the Litai community. His legacy established the yeshiva as the absolute center of daily life, which is a model you still absolutely see operating today. So he didn't just push back, he entirely defined the ultimate ideal of a Torah scholar.
Section 4. Finding historical unity.
Now you're probably wondering, if the division was so bitter that it involved actual excommunications, why do they seem to act as this united political and social front in modern Israel? Well, the answer isn't some sudden theological agreement where one side was like, oh yeah, you were right all along. Nope. It turns out, nothing unites bitter rivals quite like a shared existential crisis.
Both factions perceived massive, sweeping changes in the 19th and 20th centuries, specifically the Jewish Enlightenment, known as the Haskalah, and later the rise of secular Zionism. They saw these as direct, existential threats to their fundamental way of life. The outside world was modernizing and secularizing so fast, and this unprecedented external pressure literally forced them to hit pause on their internal feud so they could defend the traditional Torah world together.
It's a really fascinating pivot. The core question changed entirely. It went from, how exactly should we pray, to, wait, how do we protect our traditional education and our very way of life? This intense mutual survival instinct led to shared institutions, tight political alliances, and eventually the shared neighborhoods and marriages between the groups that you see today.
Section 5. The Musar movement. But hey, beyond just the external politics, there was also a quiet, internal revolution that really helped bridge the psychological gap between the two groups. And this was the Musar movement.
Emerging straight from within the Lita'i world itself, Musar introduced this profound focus on the soul, strict ethical character development, and inner spiritual refinement. Historically, that kind of focus on the inner workings of the soul was much more associated with Hasidism. So by institutionalizing a specific time for emotional and ethical work right inside those strict Lada'i yeshivas, literally a dedicated Musar order, the movement kind of softened that strictly intellectual approach. It didn't magically turn L'Taim into Hasidim, of course, but it gave both sides a shared language of inner spiritual growth. Suddenly, you had both camps talking deeply about refining their character.
All right, to summarize what you're actually going to observe on your trip, you will definitely see the Hasidim, with their warm, mystical community vibe, all centered around the Admor and the heart. And right alongside them, the Litayim, bringing that disciplined, highly intellectual atmosphere focused squarely on the Rosh Yeshiva and the mind.
So as you explore Israel armed with this explainer, I really want you to ask yourself, how do these profound historical differences continue to quietly shape the daily lives, the specific clothing, and the very souls of the people you're meeting? Are they still historical opponents, or are they really just different branches of the exact same tree now? Keep an eye out, because you'll literally be seeing history living right in front of you.